Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and in this tutorial what we are going to talk about is bootloaders. Okay, we are going to explain what bootloaders are. Loaders, okay, and we actually covered these very briefly in the previous tutorial, but now I wanted to say a couple of more words about bootloaders. So a bootloader's job is to start the kernel. That is, to load the kernel into memory and start the kernel with a set of parameters, okay? So basically bootloaders, they load the kernel into memory, okay? And I feel particularly rightful today because I'm writing all of this stuff down. So yeah, bootloader's job is to start the kernel. And that means load the kernel into memory and start the kernel with a set of kernel parameters. Kernel parameters are text-based parameters that tell the kernel how it should start. Bootloaders also select among multiple kernels, switch between sets of kernel parameters, and allow users to meddle with the kernel parameters and kernel images and provide support for booting other operating systems. Okay, so basically this kernel image that gets loaded into memory, bootloaders can switch between these kernel images, and they can also modify the parameters that you pass to the kernel, and those parameters are relevant for some kernel settings. One of the most popular bootloaders is GRUB, which stands for Grand Unified Bootloader. So if you ever see some errors related to GRUB, you now know that your bootloader is actually the problem. And honestly, I never really had to deal with bootloader problems, but I imagine that if you really have an issue with the GRUB, then that problem is pretty bad. I mean, I don't know, but because bootloaders, as we discussed in a previous tutorial, are basically the first step to booting your operating system, then if something goes bad there, it must be pretty ugly. Okay, and in those cases, Google and try to fix the issue. If it doesn't work, try to back up your files, or you actually should have had your files backed up already, because prevention is better than how do they say, prevention is better than treatment or something like that, because you should have had backed up your files already, and then if something goes wrong, you can just reinstall your operating system. Okay, but if you didn't, may the force of Google help you. And yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. So thank you for watching this tutorial, and I hope to see you in the next one as well. Cheers.